I grew up in a small, quiet town nestled deep in the woods. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and nothing ever really happened. The most excitement we ever got was when the annual fall festival rolled around, and even that was tame by most standards. But there's one thing that happened to me when I was 16 that I'll never forget. It's the kind of story that makes your skin crawl, even years later. It was late October, and the air was crisp with the promise of winter. The leaves had turned fiery shades of red and orange, and the woods behind my house looked like something out of a postcard. I was a junior in high school at the time, and like most kids my age, I was obsessed with my independence. I'd just gotten my driver's license a few months earlier, and I loved taking my dad's old pickup truck out for late-night drives. There was something about the empty roads and the stillness of the night that made me feel alive. One Friday night, I decided to take the truck out for a spin. My parents were out of town for the weekend, visiting my grandparents a few hours away, so I had the house to myself. I didn't have any particular destination in mind. I just wanted to drive. I grabbed my jacket, hopped in the truck, and headed out. The roads were eerily quiet, as they always were at that time of night. I rolled the windows down, letting the cool air rush in as I cruised through the winding back roads. The radio was playing softly in the background, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. My mind was elsewhere, lost in the rhythm of the drive. After about an hour, I found myself on a narrow dirt road that cut through the woods. I'd driven down it a few times before during the day, but never at night. It was darker than I expected, with the trees forming a thick canopy overhead that blocked out most of the moonlight. The headlights of the truck were the only thing illuminating the road ahead. I don't know why I didn't turn around. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was just the thrill of being alone in the middle of nowhere. Whatever it was, I kept driving, the tires crunching over the gravel as I went deeper into the woods. That's when I saw it. Up ahead, just at the edge of the headlight's reach, there was something in the road. At first, I thought it was an animal, a deer maybe, or a raccoon. But as I got closer, I realized it was a person. They were standing perfectly still, facing away from me, their silhouette barely visible in the dim light. I slowed the truck to a crawl, my heart pounding in my chest. Something about the way they were standing made my skin crawl. They didn't move, didn't react to the sound of the engine. It was like they were frozen in place. I thought about honking the horn, but something stopped me. Instead, I rolled down the window and called out, "Hey, are you okay?" No response. I inched the truck closer, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The person still didn't move. I could see now that they were wearing a long, tattered coat, their hair hanging in messy strands down their back. There was something off about them, something that made my stomach churn. I was about to put the truck in park and get out when they suddenly turned around. I don't know how to describe what I saw. Their face was wrong. It was twisted and distorted, like it had been stretched and pulled in ways that shouldn't be possible. Their eyes were black pits, and their mouth was curled into a grotesque smile that seemed to stretch from ear to ear. I slammed on the brakes, my heart racing as I fumbled with the gear shift. The truck lurched to a stop, and I threw it into reverse, my hands shaking as I tried to back away. But the person, or whatever it was, started moving toward me. They didn't walk like a normal person. Their movements were jerky and unnatural, like a marionette being controlled by invisible strings. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I hit the gas, the tires spinning in the gravel as I whipped the truck around and sped back down the road. My hands were trembling so badly that I could barely keep the wheel steady. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see that thing chasing after me, but the road behind me was empty. By the time I got home, I was drenched in sweat, and my heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. I locked the doors behind me and spent the rest of the night sitting on the couch with all the lights on, too scared to sleep. The next morning, I told myself it had just been a trick of the light, or maybe my imagination running wild. But deep down, I knew what I'd seen, and I knew I'd never forget it. A few days later, I heard rumors going around town about a series of strange sightings in the woods. People claimed to have seen a figure matching the description of what I'd encountered, lurking in the shadows and disappearing without a trace. No one could explain it, and eventually the stories died down. But I never drove down that road again. Even now, years later, I can still see that twisted face in my mind, and I can't shake the feeling that whatever it was, it's still out there, waiting.